another technique for applying watercolor paint is called stippling. I could stipple by using a small brush and putting lots of little dots on there, but that gets a little tedious. So I can actually use stiff bristled brushes to splatter the paint on. A lot of times you see this called splattering in other books and things. So I've got a variety of stiff bristled brushes. One of the most common ones to use is actually just an old toothbrush. So I save my old toothbrushes after I'm done with them, or you can go and buy a brush specifically for this. I also have 3 different sizes of white nylon brushes. They're no longer white because of the watercolor paint that I use, and it stains it, but it's not a big deal. So 3 different sizes will actually give me 3 different effects, 3 different splatter patterns. So I'm going to use all 4 of these brushes to start applying the paint without ever actually touching the page. So I'm going to use my paintbrush, or not paintbrush, my toothbrush first. I want to dip it in, get some water, but I really want to shake out the excess water. I don't want to have a whole lot of water in that brush. And then I can go ahead and just kind of scrub it in the paint. Get some paint on there. Okay, now the key to this is to actually fling the bristles. So I'm actually going to bend the bristles back, and then what will happen is as I move my finger back, the bristles will actually fling forward and splatter the paint. So starting at the front of the brush and then just pulling my finger back. So I can get some really crazy splattering with the toothbrush. This is really messy, so you want to keep that in mind. I'm working on an area where I don't mind if it gets paint all over it, and if I get paint on my other brushes, not that big of a deal. Okay, so really quickly I've got some little tiny watercolor dots. If I want them to be a little bit darker, I can get a little bit more paint. So the more paint, less water I have, the darker the value is going to be. So that's the paintbrush, or the toothbrush. Let me rinse out this brush. Same thing goes with a regular brush. I don't want a lot of water, so I'm going to wipe it off on the side of my cup. I don't like to tap. I can shake it though a little bit. Let's go ahead and get a different color. Let's go ahead and get this red violet. And the same thing. I can just basically bend the bristles back. I kind of like to go along the long edge of the brush. And so with this, the bristles are longer, and it kind of flings off the paint into bigger drops. Okay, just rinse that out. Rinse out my toothbrush while I'm thinking of it. Okay, now my smaller brushes, I can do the same thing. The shorter the bristles, sort of the finer the mist of paint that it will actually splatter. And the less water I have, the finer the mist. So this kind of splatters it in a smaller area. So I have to kind of move it around a lot more. Okay, and then finally my little teeny tiny brush, I can do the same thing. And it's a real fine kind of mist that's coming out of this brush. Not a lot of big drops of paint. Oh, there's some big drops. And a little more directional. It almost comes out in a straight line. Okay, so and that quickly, using 4 different brushes, I've been able to stipple this page. Stippling is just all the little tiny dots. So I can let that dry, and then that becomes a nice background for our page.